Hello, welcome to the second episode of It Sure Is a Podcast. And today we're talking about my doctor visits. It's a lot more interesting than it sounds. Lego sets and the economy, and we talk about a game or two, and then we wrap it up all nice with a little bow. All right, play that intro ditty. I got myself an hour to bang this thing out and possibly throw it together before I have to go work from home during quarantine, which has just been a delight. And also, after recording the first episode, I recorded a few other ones. And here's a personal critique, and probably you heard it too. It seemed too high strung. And that's definitely not the type of person I am. And I didn't even notice that until I recorded a few. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I got used to this. Now I'm able to really be myself. So, woke up this morning having to go back into the working world after a week off, and I had a doctor's appointment this morning. And right now, where I'm living, our governor decided to. So, I don't know if this happens for every state, but for our state, it's color coded. Red's really bad, yellow, you're kind of okay, and then green is just. Things open back up, but you still have to wear a mask at some places and stuff. And it I guess we went back to yellow, sort of, where everyone has to wear a mask. Even restaurants that are open, like you can go in there and sit down and eat something, but until you have food, you have to sit there with your mask on the whole time, unless you're outside on like a patio. That just no, I'm not doing that. I'm not sitting there with a mask on trying to talk to someone. And I understand the importance of it, but it's annoying, so I'd rather just stay home and record podcasts in my basement. And right now, that's working out pretty well. So far, so good. So, like I was saying, this morning I have a doctor's appointment. So I go in, everyone has their mask on. We do, check in, check my insurance, all that good stuff. And this morning I got up late. I really didn't care what I looked like because it's my usual doctor, And this doctor, he's the type of guy who he'll walk in and he's just swearing and dropping F bombs in between his words. And I don't know if that is his personality and like that's how he usually talks, or if he's trying to relate to me because he's definitely had me as a client since I was a little kid. So I mean, he doesn't care. And this is guy. So what I throw on is gym shorts, my flip flops, and this Minion shirt, like Minion from Despicable Me, big yellow shirt. Um, it's the only thing I really had because I haven't done laundry. Because during my vacation time, I'm like, this is me time. There's no time for laundry, no time for anything that would make me an adult, which I really regret because I go in there dressed in this giant yellow shirt, and yes, it hugs me a little too too well in certain parts of my body. Like I said in the previous episode, I'm thick with four C's. I'm a bigger guy, working on that. Um, and I go back. The believe it was a nurse takes my vitals, checks me over, everything's good blood pressure, good pulse, all that stuff. It's good. It's good. And for my size, it's very deceiving that it's that good. But also I've been dieting, I've been working out, taking care of myself, and I'm waiting for the doctor to come in, and then doctor waltzes in, when they always knock on the door, like to make sure, I don't know, you're not in there like naked or something, or trying to, shove your genitals into a plastic glove. I mean, whatever the case may be. And she comes in. Right. My doctor's a man, and this lady comes in. So it's very, very proper, very pretty blonde comes walking in, you know, And she's like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" I was looking over your thing, and I'm sitting there looking like a quarter pounder with cheese stapled onto a pair of legs in this yellow minion shirt at my age of late 20s. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, crap, I'm one of these guys. Like, I really am the embodiment of a neckbeard, of a nerd, however you want to put it. Like, that is me 100%. So I'm sitting there trying to have a normal conversation with this poor lady. And I'm sitting there with a minion shirt on that's way too tight. I was just expecting this guy, my regular doctor, to come in, and it was his assistant. And something got mixed up, and the assistant took over for him. Whatever. Okay. We had to talk about medication. We had to talk about how I was feeling. We had to talk about the COVID-19. It was delightful. She's pretty cool. And then at the end, she kind of gave the cue that we were going to wrap up, the conversation. And then just she interjects in there at the end. She's like, and before we're done, I would like to talk about your weight. And I'm like, wait. I'm like, my doctor's never talked to me about this. Like, and I have actually been maintained the same weight I did last time. I'm like, wow. Like, I definitely got respect for her because she's just kind of like, you're really fat, and you need to do something about that. Right? And my doctor, he's just like, hey, you doing good? Let's talk about jobs and stuff that guys talk about. And I was just kind of shocked that she brought this up. And I was like, wow, all right, we're going to talk about how big of a fat ass I am. All right. And I took this opportunity to kind of mess with her because she didn't know me. I didn't know her. And I kind of gave her a look of visible confusion. And I'm like, wait, what about it? You know? And then she goes into a very, I guess the best way to say it is a very politically correct way to say that you're overweight. And like at the end, I just told her, I was like, I know I'm overweight. I'm just messing with you. It's okay. I know I'm fat. And she like actually like was like kind of honest with me, and like after she kind of like broke that professionalism and kind of laughed about it, and she's like she'll be honest that sometimes like people like will be in much worse cases than I am, and they will like be shocked, you know. And I feel like you hit that point when you understand you're fat when one of two things happen. When you like walk up or down a flight of stairs and you're out of breath, regardless of how many steps there are. Is it two? Is it four? Is it, the standard? I think it's like 12 or 13. If you're out of breath, then you're out of shape. Or whenever you eat until you hate yourself. You don't eat until you're full. You go past that. You eat until you hate yourself. That's when, you've hit that level of fat. And, time after time, I still do that to myself too. But it was just very funny to hear it coming from this doctor, and she was actually real laid back, you know. And I told her, all right, I started a new diet. I do exercise, I do run whenever I'm able to. Let me go on another tangent. In my area, the gym's open back up, but you have to wear a mask. Like, okay, wearing a mask is difficult. And I don't know if you just heard that, but I just dropped a ruler on the mic, little screen. So my bad. Super professional podcast. Where was I? Yeah. So, running or working out with weights, it gets your gets your heartbeat going. And then you got to breathe a little harder. How are you going to do that wearing a mask? Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, no, that does not sound appealing to me. So I've just been working out weights at home. And then I've been running too to kind of, equal things out. And, uh, hold on a second. My stupid garbage little evil cat got stuck in the other room and was meowing, and I knew you could be able to hear that, or I would have to hear it. I don't know if you're hearing them right now, but I'm back. Don't you worry. We were talking about gym stuff. Being in that area and just having to wear a mask, not for me. Really not necessarily for me. Um, and the doctor actually commented on that all my vitals were good and actually healthy, but my body just did not represent that at all. Like the first thing in the morning, my doctor's like, "Hey, you're a little fat." And yes, I know she wasn't saying that, but I was very caught off guard, because I don't know. Usually, if you're close to the doctor, like I am with my doctor, they won't say anything at all like that, which is just super interesting to me. Um, and already, like while doing this, I'm getting my phone's buzzing on and off about, hey, people contacting me, trying to get stuff done. And all I do is sit behind a computer and Zoom meetings, you know. Actually, depending on, if it's a certain type of meeting where I just have to be present, you best believe that I'm sitting there, you know, playing some Animal Crossing. And can I say, Animal Crossing New Horizons came at a perfect time, you know, because the idea of Animal Crossing, if you don't know, is it's kind of a life simulator, but everything is very chill. Everything is very laid back. Nothing is incredibly serious. And you get to have cute animals as your neighbors, which is really nice. And like that game came out just when the quarantine started. And you're kind of looking at it like, wow, that came out at a perfect time because when I wasn't able to go out anywhere, I was able to go into the Animal Crossing world. And I already have over 100 hours in it. And a lot of my friends in the same boat, they already have 100 hours in it. So let me throw this idea out there. Let's put on our tinfoil hats, everybody. Conspiracy time with Brandon. The part of the show when Brandon comes up with a silly conspiracy theory. What if Nintendo bioengineered the coronavirus, the COVID 19, and blamed it on China? And where was it? Wuhan? Or however it's said? And released it just before Animal Crossing to double and even triple their sales from their previous entries. Yeah, that's something to think about. All right, tinfoil hat off. We did our conspiracy theory for the day. But yeah, in the background, there's a Zoom meeting, and then I'm just kind of sitting there, paying attention, but like my Switch is like kind of tucked in behind. I'm just sitting there with my controller under the desk where I'm sitting and just, catching butterflies or getting fossils, everything. It really did come out at such a perfect time. Oh my gosh, such a perfect time. And on top of that, a little bit about me. I have tattoos of Animal Crossing video games that I like. So, oh, excuse me. Some of my breakfast came back up. You hate that? That's awful. Um, while this poor doctor is talking to me about my weight and everything related to that, I am also, wearing gym shorts. So I just have Animal Crossing tattoos, nerd tattoos from movies and really obscure things all over me. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know I'm overweight. I know I'm fat, looking like a quarter pounder with cheese stapled on the legs. I know. Look at me, right? And kind of what I figured out, and a lot of other people I either listen to or people I actually talk to, is like, if you're just going to be hanging out at home playing games all day, eat less calories. So instead of doing the 3 meals times a day, even though they're healthy, like, you're not going to be moving around a lot. So just do like maybe 1 or 2 meals, and then like when you get a little, peckish, as the folks out here where I live say, get yourself a little snack or just drink water. And that's what I've been doing most of the week. I've just been drinking water iced tea, and that like makes you feel full, so you're not like whenever you feel. that hungry feeling. Your brain's like, oh, get food, but really, it's like your body's just saying, hey, I want some water. Like this poor doctor. I hope I didn't, you know, scar her. So whenever I come in, she's like, oh, it's this guy again. It's this fat ass again. But on the upside, if I lose weight and go back in, maybe there's a chance. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a relationship, a very stable one, or you're either married, like you don't care how you look. You go into public and you could be wearing pajama pants with a tank top, and on the tank top is a big picture of Garfield, and you haven't showered in days, and you're like at Walmart. You don't care. You don't care what you look like at all. But if you're a bachelor or single, or however you want to put that, there's always a certain level of care you want to give to yourself. Like, okay, even though I wore that stuff, I did brush my hair, I did brush my teeth, I did shower, you know, because you never know. You never know, you might run into the one person where you exchange glances and then you stare longingly into each other's eyes. And then you know that they're the one. And you strike up a conversation about, I don't know, what do people talk about? I've been so stuck in quarantine, and whenever I do something, it's only with friends or when I talk to them over Discord. It's just about games or stupid stuff. What do people talk about? Normal people, do you talk about the weather? I know you don't talk about the political climate. That's bad in any situation. You don't talk about it at bars. You don't talk about it with groups of friends. You don't talk about it at graduation parties. You don't talk about it at bar mitzvahs. You don't talk about it at quinceañeras. And I really hope I said that right. You just don't talk about politics unless you're literally having a debate. Which usually, especially with the older generations, it's always noticed that whenever you go to a family gathering, that is the common topic of, you know, debate. So grandma and grandpa, and then you pull out your little pulpit and you set it on either side of the living room and you start debating about something. And hopefully my goal is to not have that be a thing on here ever. But sometimes, since the idea is nerds living in the real world, that stuff has to come up. I know at some point Trump was blaming violence on violent video games, which that's a situation where, that's when okay, I didn't pay attention. I didn't care about any of that. But the second you bring, you know, video games into it, now we got a problem. Combining video games and politics. But right now, I'm very certain that complaint about video games has gone into the back of everyone's mind, given everything that's going on. So we don't necessarily have to worry about that at all. Man, look at me talking about things that aren't just nerdy stuff. Talked about my doctor's appointment, which still is just that poor lady. I really hope the best for her. I do. I'll eventually be back. And she'll be like, I maybe said this before. She'll just be like, oh, this guy. But I'm not wearing the Minion shirt. Or it's going to happen that I wear the exact same outfit I did just by chance. Because my next appointment isn't until January, which is that's quite a ways away. I'm not even going to think about it. Ugh. So I thought something really cool to talk about. I don't know if really cool is a thing. Because getting older and realizing how important finances are and how important money is. Um, and I have to look it up. There we go. I found it. I apologize. So, knowing how important money is, I've become much more frugal in my age. You know, Either a good portion of my money is paying off student loans, which, by the way, I got under 60,000 recently. So, if that doesn't just add heat to the loins, I don't know what will. Anyways, um, Lego and Nintendo, they've been collaborating a little bit. I don't know if you ever saw the Lego sets, the Mario Lego sets, which I actually think is a really cool idea, despite everyone. Um, well, I don't know. Some people really like it, other people aren't necessarily a big fan of it. Um, but, you have this Mario made out of Lego. He's a little square, and he has this like computer inside of him that can read when he's standing on certain platforms, and then every Lego set is different, and you can kind of make your own levels, but with Lego. And it kind of combines the idea of what kids actually play, like their imagination. If they're playing with a toy and pretending it's Mario, they're making the sounds in their head, they're making all that stuff, and then they're using whatever their playroom environment is to make a level. So I really find that super cool how it's kind of tapped into um that level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Creativity and child imagination, and kind of making it tangible for us adults. Because after, like, I was confused by it for the longest time. Um, but what Lego's also releasing, I think it's on August 1st, someone leaked it, is that they're going to be releasing a Lego Super, no, not Super Nintendo, just a NES, so a Nintendo Entertainment System that comes with little CRT television that you build together. And I don't know, it literally looks like just someone Legofied a Nintendo Entertainment System with a controller, and then they just put a CRT TV, like the one that you would have when it first came out. And it is running at, let me look here, give me a minute. It's 2,646 pieces, and it is running for. That's interesting. I've heard two different things. I've heard that it will run $200, 250, and this one's saying like $340. So who knows? But at first, I thought that looked really cool, and then, oh, 250 here. So these two other things say 250. Yeah, all these other articles say 250. I was reading off a Polygon. I'm an idiot. Sorry. Um, and looking at that and the price, I'm thinking that's ridiculous. That's outrageous. So I look up the prices of Legos back when I was a child in the 90s. So let's go 98, 97, 98. That was just when I was old enough to appreciate the toys I got, and then compare that to now, and the prices haven't changed. And looking back on it now, I genuinely feel bad and sorry that I always ask for Legos for Christmas, because that is a ridiculous price. And like my poor parents, growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, and for a while we were just scraping by. And me and my bratty ass is just like, I want Legos. I want them now. I love Legos. They're so tiny. They can't cost much. Dude, Legos, like just a basic Lego set, one of the bigger ones is $30 to $40. And that's not a huge Lego set. That's just, and you could get so much for $30 or $40. Like purchasing for this new diet right now, $30 to $40. Okay, when you eat healthier food, it does cost more, but it kind of evens out because you're not eating as much. But $30 to $40 can get half, if not a little more, of the groceries I need for a week, depending where you go. So I could buy groceries, or I could buy a Lego set that I'm going to build and then just leave sit on a shelf. And that's pretty much what you do as an adult, honestly. Unless you play with Legos consistently. But even then, I mean, when would you have time? I don't even have time for the stuff I want to do. First episode, I talked about all these grand projects I'm doing. And right now, I'm only working on two consistently. Everything else is on the back burner. I got the kids' book, and I got this going on. Oh, and shout out to the one person in let me see. There was a download of the podcast on Buzzsprout. One download. The lackluster pilot from I believe the Grove City area. So shout outs for you. You know, thank you. Thank you for taking time to listen to the lackluster pilot, which already I kind of feel I'm more comfortable with this one, and I feel that this is better content and variety. But that just might be me. The other two episodes, which are pretty much going to become the lost episodes. Hold on a second. Cat, move. I'm sitting here and he just jumps up on the table like, hey, you're not doing anything, right? No, get out of here. Definitely talked about our relationship, so I don't need to go over that again. You know what this is. He knows what I'm doing. He knows I'm doing something that I want to do, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get into your stuff." But back to the podcast downloads on Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout actually is a pretty decent platform to get some stuff out there. At least they have options for you to send stuff to pretty much all the podcast sources, and you can have a free account, which is kind of why this episode is a little shorter than all the other ones, clocking in at only about 50 minutes because they only give you so much time for uploads per month. And I mean, heck, the first one was an hour long, me just ranting about whatever. So I already used up half of that. So my game plan was to throw some money into this because it's something I want to do. So, if you want to pursue a project like this, you got to throw in money. But I just threw money into getting some better sound equipment, some better programs to use. And already I'm going to have to edit so much of this podcast because either I completely lost my train of thought at one point because there was a big crash in the other room. And you heard the crash too. The cat was trapped in the other room, which you heard the tail end of that, me returning. And then someone was messaging me on Discord. And I'm talking, and all you hear is the boop, 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 like the whole time. And I thought about it. I was like, oh, shoot, people can hear that. So already, this has kind of become a lot more involved than what I expected. And there's kind of that fantasy that you're like, oh, all I do is just talk into a microphone and then I get to just slap it on the internet. No, you gotta edit some stuff. You gotta clean it up a little bit. Which I definitely hope that the quality of this one is a little better than the first one. There were some hiccups here and there, but it's also starting out. Oh, and also another big purchase was I paid off a portion of, not a portion, but a good chunk of my loans. So, I'm not in the mood to be spending money anymore. And also, I have someone working on a new kind of intro for me for the channel. It's going to sound similar. It's by the same guy who I got the sound clip from, but um, I commissioned him to go ahead and make something. So there's being some money thrown into this. So it's only going to get better with time. It's going to get better quality. Pretty soon I'm going to rival the Joe Rogan podcast. No, no, not in 1,000 years. It's so funny how the guy who was the host of Fear Factor would be the pinnacle of podcasts. It's funny how things turn out. But Buzzsprout, it's been pretty neat so far. And I know that, if you're listening to this, it's either Buzzsprout or the YouTube channel, which the YouTube channel gives me 90 hurdles to jump through before I can slap anything on there. But what will happen is when I run out of time on the Buzzsprout server thing, however we want to put it, until I can, pay a little money per month to go ahead and upgrade it, episodes will show up on the YouTube channel. And then as soon as I'm able to, we'll kind of catch up on the other service. So there might be a flip flop between that. Just a fair warning. Because a part of getting content done and content out there, and I guess this is leading into the more artistic perspective of all this, is that once you finish one thing, you got to get started on the next. You can't do one and done because that's unrealistic. That's unrealistic with making a short film, your drawing style, doing commissions. You can't do one and done. You have to do one and then get started on the next thing. So eventually, over time, you grow this community, you grow these people who follow you or are interested in your work. And I'll be honest, that's something I've struggled with, especially being an artist, having a full time job. And it used to be full time school, but now the requirements of my job have kind of heightened and they have sort of gotten more involved. So I feel like my job's taken the time slot that, full time school did, also at the same time as full time job. And it's really tough at the end of the day to make something, to draw something when you just want to relax, you just want to veg out and do nothing. And some people see that as a form of self-care, being able to create art and, do a commission or create a podcast. And it's not necessarily the same for everyone. For me, it's definitely not. I just need to kind of detox from all the technology and staring at a screen that I have to do all day, which just is not pleasant. In the dream world, you think like, oh, I just want an office job. I'll just sit there and do that. And then once you get it, and I had an office job before this, once you get it, you're like, oh wow, it's the same four walls I've been staring at all week. Oh look, it's the same four walls I've been staring at all month. It really kills it. It really does. Kills that dream. But it really teaches you, hey, this is actually what I want to do. Um, and speaking of creative process, I don't know how much I went into or even touched on the, kind of kids book I'm collaborating with, but I finished the designs and sent them over to the person in charge just to see, is this what we want to go with? Is this something we want to do? And I also did a little bit of research regarding children's books. And some of the best children's books that are selling right now maybe have in between 10 and 20 books, and that's it. Like, they really only do a few books, then they kind of get deals to make toys, plushies, or something like that. And then the person's set. They're set for life because they have the royalties. And those kids who, grew up with the books, they become parents and like, oh my gosh, I remember reading this book. Then they pick up books, they pick up stuff for their kid. Their kid likes it, and the cycle continues. And that's what I need to do. This is my get rich quick scheme. Create this book, do a little series on it, and then I can retire and go hang out with the 1%. No, it won't be that intense. But I mean, it's a possibility, and the person I'm collaborating with is really kind of putting a fire under my butt, which is definitely, for me being a procrastinator, is what I need to be able to complete stuff, to be able to finish stuff. And I think that just having that fire and someone, stoking that fire, like, hey, come on, we got to get this done, we got to get this done, is super helpful. And some people work great with that. I work great with that. I think it's, the one main drive. And also talking about, putting a fire under someone's butt, getting the drive. Since I started this podcast, I've actually dug up my old kind of short stories I wrote. Um, a lot of them are either kind of these strange monster horror stories, or they are dystopian future stories, or they're just odd little short stories that definitely will get their own little podcast and it'll be labeled and everything. Um, and digging those back up and kind of going back and editing and cleaning some stuff up has actually been a real treat. It's actually been enjoyable. So hey, maybe if you need to put a fire under your butt to be able to get something done, maybe this is what you need, doing that. Who knows? It's different for everybody. I can't speak for you. I can only speak for me. Um, but I'm excited about the short story thing. And I think after we get a few episodes, maybe 3 out, we're going to do a few guests, and then we're going to go ahead and have some of those short story ones. And those won't be an hour long or anything. They'll be short and sweet to the point. And there I go rambling on about stuff for the channel. Just I just want to keep you all informed and just keep you all knowing that hey, we got big stuff coming. This just ain't one and done. Um, so I already touched on the Lego thing, which still blows my mind that that thing's gonna be $250, which is just nuts that it's gonna be so expensive. And I don't even know if I want it. I actually had this discussion with a friend who I was helping clean out his studio, and he has boxes upon boxes of old video games and stuff that he's collected over the years. And I got to put it in this perspective for him because this is how I realized, do you want to keep it because it has some sentimental value or you like to kind of show it off and collect it? That's one thing. But if you kind of keep it to think someone will think you're cool uh, for owning it, like that's not the case. There's only going to be a small majority of people who think it's cool that you own that, but you're never going to be bring a lady into the studio, show them what you do, and they're sitting there like, oh my gosh, you have a collector's edition and the original box for the original Panzer Dragoon. Oh, I'm so moist. Baby, take me now. Like, that is never going to happen. Ever. I can guarantee it. Like, I guarantee it 100%. I'll put a whole paycheck on it. That will never happen. And if that does happen, and it doesn't even have to be a lady, it can be a guy, it can be whoever, if they come in and they say that and they want you to take them in the throes of deep passion, then that's a person you marry. You get a ring. I don't care what it is. You look through your trash. If you find a ring pop without the pop on it and it's just that plastic thing, you slap that on there and you say, we're getting married. Like, that's it. That's it. That is the only time where it is okay to go ahead and do that because that is so rare. That is a unicorn in the nerd world. We're all nerds. Yes, we like video games, we like comic books, we like movies, but no one goes to that level unless they are committed. And that's when you just got to slap a ring on that. If their loins burn with a lustful fire because because you have the original box for Panzer Dragoon on the Sega, was it Sega and Saturn? I think so. Like, you marry that person. You get hitched. You go to the courthouse. You wear your mask in there and you proudly get married. A beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I don't think I will ever have that happen, but you never know. Some people met for nerdier reasons. You never know. And also in this trying times of pandemic and worry, you know, dating's kind of difficult, especially since all the best way to date have switched over to online and apps, and then everyone's kind of distancing from each other. I don't know. It's odd. And I'm the type of person that to really get to know someone, I got to see them in person. We got to meet. We have to be able to talk. I have to get to know her. And then kind of we have to be friends before I'm like, okay, do we want to do this? Now, call me old fashioned, but that's how I go. And you can end up talking to someone over text for a decent amount of time, but you don't really know them until you're in their presence. Like this one time, there's this girl I was talking to. We were really getting to know each other, and then at some point we finally hung out. And yeah, she was okay, just as she was, but she was super annoying, and she had all these little kind of how do I put it these quirks about her that like just drove me up a wall. And I was like, okay, I'm glad I went this route. And once I got to meet her, I was like, no, no. And okay, this might be a little petty, but the one thing she kind of did, I'm sorry, I've been talking too long apparently. One thing she did was whenever she would turn a page in a magazine or a book, she would lick her finger. and then turn it every time. And that just drove me up a wall. I just like lost it. I couldn't. I don't know. That has always been a pet peeve of mine. And we all have pet peeves. But that one was the one that really like struck a nerve or something. Because I was just like, nope, can't do it. No, we're still friends. But it kind of ended that romantic candle, let's say. I think also another cool thing, that nerds can share with each other is like share their interest in games to kind of add another layer of things to talk about, in a dating aspect and play games together, bond over that. And that I'm just saying that's why nerds are superior in every way. Now, if you date a normal guy, what do you got? Sports, what normal people talk about, which I don't know. Maybe you'll go see a movie. Like nerds, we can sit there and talk about the intricate lore of some of our favorite games and then have arguments about the outcome of games. Like that's goals right there. I want to sit there and get in a heated argument with my significant other because she likes Skyrim and I don't like Skyrim. And we both give our points of why it's a good game or why it's a bad game. Now, I don't necessarily say it's a bad game. That's not what I'm saying. You know, I probably just killed my population that I don't like Skyrim. It's not that I don't like Skyrim, it just isn't for me. Skyrim is a fantasy sandbox. It's probably one of the best ones ever made. I am not denying that, not at all. But what bothers me about it is just when I have too much freedom, that's when I start to struggle and become overwhelmed with like, what do I do? And also, what really bothers me is you level up your skills and abilities by using them, but you never get really any XP at the end of a quest. And that's the little carrot I always look for whenever I play any kind of game. You get this little chunk of XP for completing it. And that's just me, you know. And that's also why I kind of really like The Witcher. Witcher 3, I mean. Because there's a story, and the story was so engaging and just, it was thought out, planned out, and I'm not saying Skyrim's isn't, but Skyrim, since it's a sandbox, it can only really present its story in one way. And The Witcher has like cinematography, cutscenes, things related to that, and that's what I'm drawn to. But also sometimes I'll say like, no, this would be better as a movie. But also, like in Witcher 3, I get to make choices that, I feel that should role play with the character of Geralt compared to like some games where it looks really good, but you don't have any choice on anything. And there we go. I just started talking about Skyrim and my gripes with it. And then, my missus could be arguing about, like, it's the best thing ever. You're in the world. And it's totally right. It's totally right. It just, I don't know. It was just cool to have the discussion. But also, then it's another thing for us to argue about. Maybe I've stumbled onto something interesting. Well, I'm just going to leave that one right there. I ain't going to touch that one. I'm going to move on because the more I think about it, I kind of just talk to myself like, oh yeah, maybe it isn't the best thing. But also, if you're in a relationship where your significant other doesn't like games, but she's like, you need to stop playing games, like there's a whole can of worms to open up with that. Now, is it really that you're playing games too much, or is that person trying to shape you into something else because they think you're a nerd? That's something to think about. Um, so let me wrap things off. Wrap things off. Wrap things up. Jeez, man. And I like almost talk for a living. Like, what am I doing? Let's wrap things up with a game that I downloaded the other day. It runs like complete trash. It's on the Nintendo Switch, but it's called Vigor. Um, I think it's by Bohemian Studios. And it's different. It's really different. It's sort of a battle royale, sort of. The goal is to there's this map. You get dropped into it. No, you don't like, where we dropping Fortnite, dab dab. It's You just spawn there, and then you have to run around and collect resources from all over the place. It takes place in like 1991, alternate history. It's kind of this nuclear fallout in no, I forget where it is. It's a European country. I'm stupid. I apologize for anyone who plays it. Um, so there's many ways to play. You can just run in, grab as many supplies as you can, and book it out to one of the exit points, which is exit points all over the map. And you can encounter other players on the way, or you could see no one. And actually, how I've been playing, kind of enjoying it, is I take nothing in at all. I just run in, grab resources, and run out. Because the thing is, if you bring in a loadout, you bring in some supplies, okay, you have a better chance of healing yourself. But if you lose, if you get killed by another player, you lose all those. So the things you brought in, you lose. And I think that system works a lot like with Escape from Tarkov, which is a game I actually do like to watch on streams or just watch YouTube videos of, just because that concept interests me, but necessarily the PvP elements don't. Just like I talked about in the first episode, I'd rather work together than play against each other. But in this, I'm kind of left to my own devices, and I'm just allowed to run in there, do what I want, grab some supplies. Um, but right now, there's like the Founders Pack, and when there's interesting titles like that, I don't mind throwing a few bucks at them. You know, it's something I don't mind doing at all. But it's going to be free to play soon. So if you're interested, hold off on that. It was only $20, but you're getting resources to build up your house, which is where you can make weapons better. But right now on the Switch, I really feel like it needs a little polish because I got in a gunfight with some guy and the aiming was bad when we're shooting at each other and the sights aren't working right. Now, I don't know if this was a bug, if this is just how the game's designed, if it is something like I need to upgrade the weapon and have a better sight. But we sat, a few yards from each other. He had a Thompson and I had this old rifle, and we're just shooting at each other. We aren't hitting anything. And then, like, two of his bullets miraculously hit me and I just die. So I don't know what that was. Was that server? Was that other stuff? Who knows? It it needs some work. It needs a few bugs polished out. Some of the environments, depending, look kind of muddy, look kind of gross. But graphics don't make a game for me, so I don't care. They can look like that. Like as long as it plays decently, I'm okay with it. But it's interesting title for the Switch, definitely. And just building up your base of operations, allowing you to do more stuff, it's kind of a fun loop, and honestly, the loop takes maybe 5 minutes at most compared to like Escape from Tarkov, where you can be in a raid, is what they call them, for up to I don't know, like 20 minutes, and then you lose everything. This, it's smaller little bite-sized chunks, and also there is some kind of radioactive storm that closes in on the area, but honestly, I've never been in there long enough to even see it. I get in, grab a bunch of supplies, fill up, and I get out. I might be playing the game wrong, but hey, it's interesting. There's my game suggestion for the day. It looks like we're just about to hit the 50-minute mark, which I got to cut this episode a little short, but I really hope you enjoyed. And as I said earlier, some things are in the works to, make this a little more professional, a little better. Fancy mic is on the way. So whenever I bump something, you don't hear it and you're like, what was that? Like, hey, I'm sitting in a basement recording these when I can, you know, and like also I'm looking at the time and looking at my phone and like I am just teetering on the thing. Like I have to go work now. So I hope you all have a delightful day. Do everything you've ever wanted to in one day. I'm just kidding. Take it a day at a time. And that's all for me. That was the second episode of It Sure Is a Podcast. Hope you join me for episode 3. All right. Bye. Love you.